This thing calls your name. Move to the aisle so that you're out here so that you're ready to speak when the speaker who completes has completed. Okay, this was the first the testimony we have received to date, and then we'll begin the public comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We received written comments of 1,010 and 28 in support and 28. I will begin calling the names that signed up, and about 3 I'll call the person's hand at the beginning of time along this side. So I think we just have to hopefully make some space there so that testifying to people.
I just need to get down to the press area where there's plenty of room. Oh my God, we're in. I can't believe it. Thank you. Sorry. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Sure.
All right, let's begin. Mauna Kea. Audit, then Mark Chun, then Jamie Akaka.
It's a very humbling thing to come before all of you today. And you will hear many facts. Many people coming from many different directions in support and against this construction. So to open today, I simply speak from my heart. Born and raised on the slopes of Mauna Kea, in small sugar farm, grew up farming by people, running in the forests of Ahuaroa. This is my home. And I love it. I love it with all my heart. I've had many things over my years. I'm a product of the next step in education for the Hawaiians. I'm a product of the Hawaiian Charter School movement. And the mission was to try and bridge our traditional culture with modern living, Western civilization. And we found things that can connect, and some things that just cannot sit in the same way together. Because one's mission is to destroy the other. But we are here now, and as I've had to take my time to stand on the mountain, to climb that mountain in defense of that mountain. Again, we can be introduced to all the many facts behind this, but behind this is something that's immeasurable. And that is the spiritual connection of many of the people of this land to this mountain. There is things that are measurable. You can actually measure a lot of the environmental impacts upon this mountain. Already, in the first 4 hours of construction and movement of tractors, we have oil spills on our mountain. Mauna Kea, we've heard it many times. It is a sacred place, it's a temple. But for me, it's not even a question of what mortals seek to have paw on the mountain. Mauna Kea is about us all. That's why the tradition of our kupuna is kapu. We did not ascend onto this mountain. Only very specific people for specific purposes, specific ohana. And that was to malama and take care of their family connections and then make that kumina to the heavens. And the function today that needs to be upheld and understood is also a deeper reason as to why. I will close with this. Mauna Kea, the pure, the divine woman of the mountain, the white snow, the pure water source. Mahalo nilona ako.
Audit. And then Mark Shen.
You know, put my emotions together. You know, I don't know the brother that came before me, but we are one. Inside the heartbeat of him and I are the same belly, bumping and beating. I want to thank all of you Regents for coming and making that time to listen. Regardless of whether your decision in your mind and your mouth has
Kelly Hoomeaina, Muslim Lover, who in 1993, on the 100th anniversary of the overthrow of the High Kingdom, directed a reenactment of that overthrow at Kealani Palace. We are also representing the Sacred Mauna Kea, who is one of the groups that is supporting the protectors on Mauna Kea. And what I'd like to talk to you, I just have a few notes, but I want to talk about systematic cultural erasure of Hawaiian culture that the TMT would be a part of. Our culture was deliberately suppressed, and for 122 years we've been recovering our culture. Our language, was banned. Our dance was banned. And so we've been recovering our culture in phases. And when the first telescope went up and was proposed on Mauna Kea, Hawaiians were actually at the height of a period of time when really, this is me sharing what I've heard from my ohana, that they wanted to be good Americans and fit in. And so when those not everyone. We are in the midst of a cultural renaissance. It's been going on for a number of years now. And so we have our Hawaiian charter schools where now our children are being raised here in their culture. They know their history and their culture. They know why Mauna Kea is sacred. This is something that's not taught in Hawaiian public schools. And we have been resisting telescopes on Mauna Kea. Some of the what's been being put out by the TMT is that Hawaiians didn't oppose the earlier telescopes. This is not true. So now we've come to the point now where we have a whole global community opposing the TMT and speaking out to protect Mauna Kea. We're not going to stop. The system, when we talk about systematic cultural erasure, the system that has allowed the 13 telescopes that are now on Mauna Kea is allowing developers to have control of the cultural assessments and make changes to them, which is what happens in this place, is corrupt. people that worked on that cultural assessment told me personally that it was the most altered cultural assessment they had ever seen. That is erasure. Leveling the sacred summit is literal erasure of Hawaiian culture. Removing all that soil that is considered sacred by Hawaiians is erasure. Leveling any other culture's sacred sites, whether it be Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, would be unthinkable to all of you, I think. So ask yourselves, please, why is a Hawaiian sacred site any different? As far as the astronomy, the astronomer's purpose, looking out into the galaxies, into the universe, you know, I have to see part of that is a frontier mentality, wanting to be the first to name this star, that galaxy. To me, it's part of that same frontier mentality that pushed America from sea to shining sea, that pushed it across 2,000 miles of the Pacific to these islands, to take something, to name it, to claim it. I think that's backwards thinking. When we were talking about Hawaiians not being in favor of science, to me that is the backward thinking. And that's what has brought us to this impasse. I don't think this is progress. Hawaiians have embraced technology. You can see that in the huge social media campaign that is now global, in opposition to the TMT. So that's all I have to say. I thank you for listening. Dexter.
Aloha mai kākou, aloha Regents. I'm Mauna Kea aloha. For generations, my family has had the blessing of being Kea aloha kamana in Waimea, Hawaii. I'm here, you might have seen me at the Oahu meeting. I'm here to let you folks know that if the Mauna remains desecrated, that the entire island chain will continue to kākou the efforts of our leaders, Mauna Kea and Kaho'okai, and all the people on the front line standing for this right. I want to let you folks know a few things because we have such a short time considering the 60 years of desecration. Okay? I want to start with the beginning. I'm certified by you folks as an anthropologist. That is the person what I'm talking about, right? So my summary is this. We start from the idea that race is not identifiable through genetic means, right? So we now call ourselves ethnicities instead of race for PR purposes. And what I feel is happening on the Mauna, considering our intergenerational knowledge, that I have a little bit of a privilege of knowing, which is that the Mauna is the firstborn of Wakea, our Sky Father. The Mauna is elder to Haloa Makalau Kapalili, elder to Haloa, the first chief. That makes the Mauna our elder. Now, the erasure and ethnocide that's happening here, I should say, the comments that our people don't know our culture, that have not revered the Mauna, is a complete lie, I must say, or a misconception at the least. ethnocide, therefore, is genocide. Do we agree on that? That's a professional opinion. So, your ethnocide is our genocide, and that's what you're committing on our people. Now, I want to go back to the university's mission statement that you folks use to exploit and garner students. Yeah, give me 1 second while I pull it up. Hold on. A university that claims to be a Hawaiian place of learning cannot at the same time be the agent of erasure of Hawaiian culture. However, as the for-profit facilitator of the 30-meter telescope, this TMT, and all other telescopes on Mauna Kea, the University of Hawaii, you folks are doing this. So you gotta do one thing or the other. Either you're committing ethnocide against our people, or you're a Hawaiian place of learning, which you're missing. As the leaseholder for the Mauna Kea Science Reserve, UH is responsible for removing the sacred landscape. 1,728,000 cubic feet of ground from a summit home to nearly 200 cultural sites. That's all that's been identified. That's all you guys were willing to identify. According to the Hawaiian worldview, Mauna Kea Summit is where creation begins. Native Hawaiians and people throughout Polynesia, Oceania, recognize Mauna Kea's sacredness. According to Hawaiian cosmology, Waka is a sky father, like I said. However, this university, its Board of Regents, and Institute for Astronomy insists that the quest to see the universe's origins is paramount, even though the discussion is that the beginning of the universe doesn't even exist, that it's always existed. Yeah. And if you folks are a place of learning, you should know that, right? The irony of destroying the site of creation of these islands to look back to a theoretical creation is lost on you. Please find it. Find that knowledge. You're a place of knowledge, right? Astronomy is not the only school of knowledge. UH must also support its Hawaii Nui Akea School of Hawaiian Knowledge, right? I mean, and all of them. When the genealogical chant, Ko'ihonua Mauna Kea, is taught, it must embrace its Hawaiian studies program in a Hawaiian place of learning. This Hawaiian knowledge must be upheld. Scholarship from UH itself, the doctoral dissertation of Professor Noinoi Silva, has shown that the annexation of Hawaii was protested by the majority of the native and non-native people in 1897. After the treaty was defeated in the US, a joint resolution of Congress, not a legal instrument by which Congress had authority to annex territory or to claim the islands, UH must embrace discoveries from William H. Richardson Law School, where emerging scholarship shows that the Hawaiian Islands were left unnamed in the act of admission. You have no jurisdiction here. That's right. I'm sorry. The world is watching. Recently, Mauna Kea supporters converged on the UHBOR meeting. I was there, you was there, you saw us. Jason Momoa has stepped in. Hollywood is supporting this. You folks, people are watching you. And you should look at your liability and your accountability, which I think is lacking. And with much aloha, I want you folks to do that. Mahalo.
Dr. Dexter Ibikoa, Johnson, Mauna Kea, and Senaki.
Aloha Keakua, aloha tua, aloha na'omakua, aloha na'upuna, aloha moko keame, aloha protectors of Mauna Awakea, and aloha to the Honorable Board of Regents. My name is Dexter Kayama. I'm an attorney by profession. We all speak with multiple personalities. From my individual capacity, I must say that the Mauna predated man. That the Mauna predated all the laws that we talk about, whether to protect or destroy this mountain. So for me, Mauna is a spiritual man, and will always be a spiritual man. So I wish to have my further comments placed in that context. Again, I am an attorney by profession. And I just delivered to the Board of Regents a letter that was sent to the listening about 2.5 hours ago. It is a letter as the attorney for the TNT telescope to cease and desist the construction of the TNT on Mauna Kea. The letter that has been hand delivered to you provides the basis for the demand to cease and desist, and it provides the links to the authority for your consideration. Again, the letter was delivered to the Mr. Ames as the attorney for TNT, but the Board of Regents was copied on this letter, as well as the International Criminal Courts, the Government of Canada, as well as the Board of Land and Natural Resources, the Hawaii County Police Department, as well as the Office of Homeland Affairs. Again, it is with much respect and with humility that I stand here before you and ask you to take these matters into serious consideration. All the information is there for you to make that determination. And as the Board of Regents, you have the so-called claim, the vested interest in Mauna Kea. So it would be your order that would order the police to come and arrest more people come Monday or Tuesday. You have now been placed on constructed. You have now been placed on constructed notice that those orders will also be a violation of Hawaiian Kingdom law and international law. My obligation as attorney for the clients who I represent on that letter is to report the commission of war crimes should they occur. I ask you, again, with all respect, that you take this into serious consideration and stop any construction of the TNT telescopes on Mauna Kea. And at the very least, to call and stand down on any arrest that is being made for those who wish to protect Mauna Kea.
Osiris ko Okalani Jonathan ko Uinoa. No Lolo Nuya Keo Mai. Hello everyone, my name is Cyrus Johnson and I'm from Big Island. So nerve-wracking coming up here and standing in front of my heroes, my generation, my people, and our beliefs. I come with one short, simple study that was conducted in 1995 in Virginia, focusing on the indigenous people of the whole mountains. This is in response to a 750 kilovolt transmitter wiring that would go across Virginia to West Virginia over native lands. Let me pull up what Dr. I believe Richard Kent, but let me cross-check because I know you guys can look at them. Oh, I smoke, I'm nervous. So. Okay. Anyway, his name is James Kent. So this is what he writes. He writes, cultural attachment embodies the tangible and intangible values of a culture. How people identify with and personify the environment around them. It is the intimate relationship developed over generations of experiences that the people of a particular culture feel for the sites, the features, the phenomena, and the natural resources, etc., that surround them, their sense of place. This attachment is deeply rooted in the beliefs, practices, cultural evolution, and identity of a people. The significance of cultural attachment in a given culture is often overlooked by others whose beliefs and values evolve under different set of circumstances, i.e., some of you. Yeah. We cannot be mad. We must support everyone and everything. We bust a law, everyone. Let me also read some other things that he has to say about cultural attachment. Cultural attachment is the result of having lived in an area and having had your ancestors live in that area. Cultural attachment is the result of having made many decisions within the context of a land, a place, and a kingship. Cultural attachment requires the active rather than passive process of a people attempting to preserve their natural and social environment, and that is what we are doing right here. We are being active, we are not idle, and we are going to be here from day one to the end of this. And let me tell you, we will be the rocks when we die. Let me leave you on a legal note. Please, come on, gotta change up the app. Now, that'll bring the attention a little bit. But it'll be 15 to 30 more seconds. Under Hawaii Administrative Rule, Title 13-284-6. Section B. To be significant, a historical property shall possess integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association, and shall meet one or more of the following criteria. Let's hear them all. Criteria A, be associated with events that have made an important contribution to the broad patterns of our history. The Kumulipo. Come on. Criterion B, be associated with the lives of persons important in our past. Criterion C, embody the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction that represent work of master or possesses high artistic value. Criterion D, have yielded or is likely to yield information important for research on prehistory or history. And finally, my favorite, criterion E, have an important value to the native Hawaiian people or to another ethnic group of the state due to associations with cultural practices carried out or still carried out at the property due to the associations with traditional beliefs, events, or oral accounts. These associations being important to the group's history and cultural identity. Kukia Mauna. Kukia Mauna.
So overwhelming to look around this room and see all of us here. And the other day I was talking with Uncle Hank, and just him being up on the mountain and him saying to us that he waited his whole life for this. How many years, Uncle, you've been protesting? Over 40 years. 45 years. And for Uncle to tell us that this is what he's been waiting his whole life for. It's unreal. So, for everything else I'm saying. But this is such an incredible movement right now that's happening, and it's vibrating throughout the whole world. And what better place to begin that than the sleep of aloha? Aloha aina is something we're taught when we're born and when we're raised, because the aina is our sibling. So we treat the aina as our older sibling. But the mauna is our mother. Our piko, our connection to Keapua, the first light that Keapua touches is to her before he spreads the warmth down to all of us. When growing up, I only went up to the Mauna one time because my parents knew that we don't just go up there to play in the snow, to bring snow down. You know, I totally model everybody that does that, but we were taught that we don't do that because it was reserved a temple, a sacred place for our people. And just being up there, now I'm going on about 22 days now. after only being up there 1 day. And being at the Pico the day of the arrest and being told that we were criminal trespassing was like, wow. You know, like these are the people that are supposed to be protecting us, and they're telling us that we're trespassing as criminals on this land. Because these lands are conservation lands, as we all know that, and it's meant to conserve, to preserve, and to protect. So before money, all we needed was our aina and our kai. And before money, all we had was our aina and our kai. So I'm sorry if I'm just going on, but Mauna Kea o ka Mauna I ka pono.
Hawaii, Board of Regents, aloha to the protectors of the Mauna. I'd like to follow up on the testimony that was given by Attorney Dexter Kayama. If you turn to page 4 of what was handed out to you, go to the second paragraph, almost at the bottom. And it has Gumapep versus Office of the Federal Attorney General. That's for Switzerland. We have filed war crime charges. And the Swiss government has now taken it and moved forward with the war crime charges. You cannot say that you don't know, because what was provided to you as part of war crime charges and possibly count is information that we need to provide so that you know of your rights and what you have to do. It's very important. So the solution that I propose to the Board of Regents is for you to call a moratorium on any future development up at the TMT until you can research your liability in regards to possible war crime charges. This is not fun and games. This is a real deal at the international level that brings in the Hawaiian Kingdom as the existing sovereign entity today. All of you need to begin to understand that, and this is not a game. The Swiss government is taking it very seriously in the war crime charges against former CEO for Deutsche Bank, the entire Deutsche Bank throughout the world. And this is the guy that is now being charged with war crimes because of the war crimes that he committed here in Hawaii. That's only the beginning. And so it is necessary that you retain some of the experts coming out of your school, because we have some of the best. We have Dr. Dylan Stein that you need to retain. We also have Dr. Willie Kawai that you need to retain. We have Donovan Preza, as well as many others in your system that are experts in this area. Do not ignore them, because by ignoring them, you put yourself at risk.
lumayaw, ano, kaumay, kauwahan na. Aloha mainis, sunang kanyang umuwana, I am from Hilo, and my family is from Namopua Code. I start my statement here today with the introduction of who I am and where my ohana is from, because it is my direct connection to this aina. Just as it connects me to this aina, it connects me to Mauna Kea, the people of this Mukupuni, and the Pai Aina of Hawaii. This area is a very sacred and considered Wauapua, a place where our gods dwell. Now in your EIS, you state that no archaeological sites will be disturbed in the process of constructing this telescope. But I'm here to say that is heaven. I say this because you fail to recognize that the whole mountain is sacred, not just one body or place. You did not find evidence of sites everywhere because not all were allowed there. Only Kapuna and Ali and those with purpose were allowed in this big body. It hurts me to think of the desecration that has happened over the years, and it continues to happen today. This issue has also hindered my growth as a student here at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. I sit in class these past few weeks while my na'au and my spiritual being is up there with the Mauna. How can a Kanaka Maoli be expected to thrive in an institution that is committed to the continued desecration of our sacred body? Mauna Kea calls to me, she calls to us all if we only listen. And if you allow yourself to listen, you will know that what you are letting happen here is heva. It is wrong. The cultural impact statement clearly stated that there was huge opposition to this development, and still you approved this project. The problem I see is that you continue to try and mitigate this issue. However, this is not an option. There is no possible way to mitigate the sacredness of this body. I leave you today with a question. How is it that with clear knowledge that the Kanaka Maoli of this Aina did not support this program or this project, that you still went ahead and approved this project? Mahalo.
Before we hit the shot clock, you guys gotta wait. With the world, the Lapoa, Kane, Kupuna, and Wayne is please stand up so I can look at you guys' eyes. Whoever got to say that day, rise. Uncle, sitting down over there. Get up. Yeah. There we go.
I'd like to speak in my turn, but I never get the stand-up sheet, so I want that to be known.
Yeah. We'll get them up. Okay. Hello, my name is Joe Kepo. Kaululo, Honolulu, Toki, Kona, Sayo. And we stand for Mauna Kea. We stood, no violence. That's why we're here. So there's no disputing why I'm here. We're students, and now we're getting punished due to the indoctrination that took place in 1906. The Palapala is there. Our education got put up in 1907. So all that Palapala is here. And now we're getting punished for standing up for Aspono. And guess what? It doesn't even feed us. It doesn't even feed us. So now we're all here together. And I'm just blessed and humbled to be standing in front of all my Napoas, Maine, Kani, Puna's ancestors, and Okua before us. But right now we gotta stop because the tree is a school. We had a big old Pono meeting, and it's a school. It's a school that's ever. It's the learning. It's the indoctrination that keeps on going. and it keeps on, it's alive today. It's alive today. We have the documentations, and everybody over here. Before you guys came in, did you guys see the flag? The Board of Regents did an out-of-court settlement with us. By our Kupuna Williamson Chang, we filed laws of occupation due to the ones characterizing of our nationality. And the flag was one of them, the biggest visual. The biggest visual was flying over us. After we filed these things 5 times, they thought it was a game. They thought it was a game. The 6th time, we didn't return it. That's when the remedy came, and they acknowledged that the laws of occupation does exist. That's why HEC and the University of Hawaii Hilo are going to put up 2 separate goals, everybody. In regards to the laws of occupation. Not federal law, not state law, not county law. Laws of occupation, that's our kingdom law. It's embodied in international. As Aldo said, Dexter, as all our components said. So you gotta ask yourself, why did the out-of-court remedy that? It took place. It didn't come from Uncle Billy, or the state, or the federal. It came through these people right here. And they thought that it was going to be quiet. But I'm one of the students. I'm one of the many students that continue to hold this education up higher. That budget doesn't mean a thing. Because right now, this is the time right now. Everybody's looking at us, the world. Look at everybody's eyes right now. Everybody's, Manao is one, but the power, the mo'olelo, and the actions is powerful. And so now that we see the 2 poles flying coming up, Mauna, Maui, all of our items, let's go. Mauna.
I'll put this sign over here on the side because if you guys realize they divided our group, the rest of our group is far away from being here. So for all our ohanas out there at Campus Center watching and trying their hardest to listen in, because this is the kind of accountability that administration does not do justice for us. You know that we're going to have all these people here. I'm in a small room, and I have to call the fire department to let them know that you guys violated. Like I said, you cannot be this place of Hawaiian Energy because you guys are leading this desecration and many more. You guys cannot. I hold this sign with pride because it's hold you guys accountable. Okay? We all are here to maybe uphold you guys' job. You guys don't need this position. You guys should be out. Yeah? Out of this position. We have plenty. My stance here is for the next generation, my keiki, to come to this university and be proud. They don't have to go away to another university. This is the place to be. Okay? We're asking for better. Because right now, you guys are not doing your job. This is why we stand in here. Because the accountability and the baseline that you guys hold is lost already. It's gone. You can see. It's clear. No jurisdiction. No pala. What you guys doing is prostituting. These lies here. Right? Prove to me to this day. I would like an answer. Prove to me that indoctrination does not exist today in this university. Yeah? You proved it once by having that flag change. Prove to the rest of us that this is all going to change as of today. All of them.
Are going stop and save again. Hang out. We'll be right back. We'll make sure it archives. Hang out.
It is more than just a place of sanctity. This Mauna, it isn't about telescopes. It isn't about desecration, it isn't about an individual thing. It culminates an entity. We are Mauna Kea. You see it in popular media now, the idea. Where does that come from, and what is that idea that we are Mauna Kea? You know, there's an Olelo Mo'eo that says, Ho'okahi leo ua lava. One voice is enough. And I think that our Mauna has given enough of herself, of her sanctity. How much more of our Hawaii will you plan on desecrating? We aren't anti-science. By all means, we are far from that. Hence, look at our Kulea in the middle of the world. So for me, it's more than a fight for a mountain. It's a fight for what folks like. One is not enough. Two is not enough. Because more and more and more, and what is it going to be enough to go around? That's what our cry is. Is enough. Come on. And I pray that the Lord will be with all of us as we strive to be one with each other. The beautiful thing about the truth is whether you accept it or deny it, it doesn't change the truth. Whether you accept it or deny it, and the truth is simple, that Hawaii has paid enough.
Right here. Thank you. Thank you for letting me in. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I guess it is afternoon. My name is Mark Chan. I'm an astronomer at the Institute for Astronomy here in Hilo. I've lived here for 17 years, and I've worked in the university for 13. My two children are born and raised in Big Island. I believe that we all agree that Mauna Kea is not just any mountain. As a scientist, I study and compare sites around the world to see how they impact the science we can do. We've studied in collaboration with scientists around the world. We've studied sites in South America, Mexico, the mainland, the Arctic, the Antarctic, Asia, Africa, Australia. And throughout these studies, Mauna Kea, the combination of qualities it has, are unmatched. It is truly unique. And scientists around the world understand and recognize this mountain as the standard by which all other sites on the world are compared to. It is the gold standard. By being on Mauna Kea, telescopes are more powerful and are able to do more science that other sites, telescopes at other sites cannot do. TNT will be the most powerful optical infrared telescope, even if other telescopes planned for Chile are physically larger. My family and friends in Hawaii are excited about the discoveries that are made at home, and they recognize that Mauna Kea as yet another reason that Hawaii is special. I recognize and respect that there are other viewpoints to this, but my sense is that there is an unstated pride in Hawaii that Mauna Kea is the best site in the world. Does it impact you? Yes, it impacts all of us at many levels. Others have spoken and will speak to the exploration of the universe, but to see the impact, we need to look no further than our cell phones and the cameras inside our cell phones that we use to record our daily lives, to tweet our events. These detectors have heritage in the scientific electronic devices that we use in astronomy. And astronomers have improved the quality and characteristics of these devices. In fact, the infrared counterparts of these devices are referred to as the Hawaii rays because of pioneering work that's been done on Mauna Kea. The image stabilization and autofocus in your cameras is a form of adaptive optics, another technique that's been pioneered in Hawaii on Mauna Kea. So astronomy has an impact on our knowledge and aspirations of the sky, but it also has real, tangible impacts to our daily lives. We can choose to disengage Hawaii from the science and technology, or we can choose to continue to lead the world. I'm really bad at taking selfies, sorry. I favor constructive and open relationship and management of the mountain. We have common goals, and importantly, we have mutual respect for the mountain and each other.
Next up will be Mauna Kea,
Aloha. First off, my name is Janice Akaka. But aloha for the Regents and everyone here. As students of the University of Hawaii system, it is through your institution that we have learned of the significance of our mountain and its importance not only to our ecosystem, but also to our cultural and spiritual identity. We have also been taught and expected to learn a number of skills such as communication, critical thinking, critical reading, informative competency, quantitative reasoning, utilizing different areas of knowledge, reflecting on self and community, as well as cultural diversity awareness and ethics, all which are exemplified today. According to Hawaii Mauna Kea, the chosen name of the group given the task to indigenize our academia, I quote, "Everything we do is or should be imbued with Hawaiian values and respectful of the traditions practiced here for centuries, long before the ancestors of other ethnicities landed on our shores. It is incumbent to Hawaii's only public institution of higher education to both educate Hawaiian youth of our islands, to prepare them for productive lives, and continue to play a key role in preserving and perpetuating the culture that exists nowhere else on earth. We have chosen to take a non-violent stand to hold the University of Hawaii system accountable for the responsibility of Hawaii's indigenous language and culture, according to the strategic planning and assessment mission statement that is stated on your website. To this end, we feel compelled to articulate what we find to be moral and furthermore to exemplify how we find our learning institutions' precedents immoral. We believe that the TMT project construction commencement on Mauna Kea is in direct conflict with students' best interests and values. That this project is inconsistent with our expectations. I have nothing more to say. I said what I needed to, and I held you guys accountable for the mission that you stated, implying that Hawaiian students and their culture comes first.
We're supposed to keep this area clear.
These are islands.
The media is supposed to stand this area over here.
Well, we need a bigger area. I'll tell you what, I'll climb over the tusk and sit there. How about that?
And we love to play in the fight. Now we're older,
What media organization are you with?
Big Island
Put
Festival.
it on and step up, step humble. With truth and
Ridiculous the
right.
practice for these.
Just
This just can't be keeping everything here. No one is allowed to. They're all following the rules.
These are words of Stephanie. As students in the UH system, it is through your institutions that we learn of the true significance of our moment. More so than just a pillar in our community that stands for us and protects us. As community members, we are concerned with the management of our mountaintop, which we see primarily as a conservation district. We are highly concerned with the implications of any further development of Pocket, and we view the large-scale construction of the proposed 30-meter telescope as the industrialization and destruction of these conservation lands. We find that the project is decidedly questionable in regard of many of the legal requirements for the development of any such conservation district in the state. Though a new EIS is being prepared for the lease renewal, the EIS for the TMT has already stated that Mauna Kea has cumulatively suffered substantial, significant, and adverse impacts on cultural, archaeological, historic, and geological resources under the current lease. We oppose the construction of the 30-meter telescope. Any further developments on Mauna Kea and the renewal of the UH's current lease of conservation lands. 400 plus and also Mahalo.
Mauna Kea.
A handful of us started the Native Hawaiian movement for justice 45 years ago in Kalanga Valley on Oahu. I taught the first ethnic studies class in Manoa 43 years ago. I'm not against science, but I am against the TMT at Mauna Kea. I was also an OA trustee for 12 years. On Aikealoha, I am one of the 31 citizens arrested April 2nd on Mauna Kea. I attended UH, as have many of my family members who graduated from this university through the years. I know for a fact that there are UH educators who now have reservations about continuing their employment at this university because they feel there is a contradiction for them as educators involved in conservation while UH proposes the TMT on conservation INA. It is also felt that you are ignoring what this mountain truly means to us Native Hawaiians, and you at UH are using our culture and values to justify the TMT, which will be the tallest structure on this island on top of the highest, most sacred mountain of the Pacific. 13 telescopes are enough. Take down the obsolete ones and replace them, if you must. Enough is enough. Have no respect. Our culture, value system, and islands have been used and abused for the profit of everyone that has come to these shores, too frequently leaving natives and locals at the bottom of the economic, social strata. There are other alternative methods for UH to achieve fame and lofty ideals. We have more endangered species on these islands than anywhere else in the world. Climate change and global warming will greatly impact Hawaii and our fellow Pacific Islanders. It is proper and fitting in the spirit of Aloha Aina that UH become the environmental city center for saving the earth instead of investigating the outer reaches of the universe. We must take care of, quote, we the people, and the quote, here on earth, instead of investigating the beginning of time at its time. So, Mauna Kea o Kaina i Kaporo, mahalo nui loa.
Let's wait for the mic to reach you. Okay, next up after will be Rebecca Kapuia and Jasmine Kamalino.
My name is Maila Murray. I am a student at the HCC. I have children who are in the public school systems. I have nieces and nephews in the public school systems. I have friends and family in here today. And we all come together for one thing: our future. We as parents, as aunties, uncles, and even as educators have one purpose and one goal, and that is to prepare the future. The children are our future. And my feelings, I have to say, I'm not for what is going on up in Mauna Kea right now. I'm not for this young project. Granted, none of us are against science. I'm not against science. But what is taking place up there is there's already enough desecration, there's already enough destruction up there. We have the army blowing that place up more than 90% of the time. There are telescopes up there that evidently, once this project or proposed project is built, are going to have absolutely no use whatsoever. There's nothing been allocated, no funds have been allocated to do anything about those hollow shells once they're done and once they serve a purpose. This need or this feeling that, to forward science, or at least on our mountain to try and push it forward, it's like a greed gone mad. It's like a bloodthirst. Nobody's taking the time we spend, we find out that there's more time spent looking at the stars and taking care of what we were given here on earth. We are stewards. We're all stewards. We're stewards, we're caretakers of the earth to coexist and take care of it, not to manipulate it for our further gains. We are here to prepare the next generation so they can live and not die at early age. Every year, every generation is dying earlier and earlier. And any further impact, whether it be just this one incident or more to come, is not going to help the situation. I watch friends and family struggle up there. I watch my kids who are so young that have such a full understanding of how this is going to impact them. There was a statement made on the news a couple nights ago about how TNT is not going to drill into the aquifers. Yeah, I know they're not going to drill into the aquifers. It's 13,000 some feet below the top of the mountain. But any kind of construction that will take place up there is going to affect our water table. More than 80% of us here live on county water. I don't want to live on toilet water. That's all I have to say.
Aloha mai kako o Mauna o Rebecca Kakalia, mai kamoku o Keale, ka Mauna o Lono Nui a Kea, a o Hiloa ne Ku'urne Hanau. I am here on behalf of my Ohana, my Aina, my Queen, my Keiki, and all who have come before me. Thank you for your time and attention to the concerns of our nation and its people. I am evidence of the remains of which my kupuna have gifted to this world and to this land. In honor of the foundation that has been created by our kupuna, I humbly come before you in opposition to the illegal desecration of crown lands belonging to the existing Kingdom of Hawaii. When certain political systems are built on solutions to treat the symptoms of environmental health and the conditions of the community and its people, not by curing and addressing the cause. Therefore, the wellness of the people will never be cured by the governing system of which you are a part of. Created by political and corporate cartels, it is in truth and transparency that all parties involved in this arena are both criminals and victims of financial warfare. To the Board of Regents, your willingness and ability to join us in our efforts to ensure public health and environmental sustainability will be critical to the foundation of the future and its children. Together we can set a global example of what Aloha Aina means in being responsible to planet Earth as well as outer planetary systems of our galaxy. To the people of this land, take back your power. In the rise of higher consciousness, global illumination, and in the responsibility to those you serve, it is with utmost diligence and ancestral intelligence that I urge you to support an indefinite moratorium to achieve balanced resolution amongst all stakeholders, including the Native.
Jasmine?
Aloha mai kapo. Jasmine mahina ka poha ka manila ko ino kiwa. Aloha mai ko i kia kukuni ma kamoku opuna. There are 4 things that define me. I am a mother of 3 beautiful kiki. I'm a facilitator/educator. I am a surfer. I am a Kanaka Maoli woman who is proud of my culture. The reason that I stand here before you is to express my feelings for this issue that my people are currently facing. I can only speak for myself, my children, and my kupuna, and there are a few things we would like to say. In light of much controversy, I will be straightforward and dispute some of the misconceptions regarding our stand against TMT. Our stand is not against collaboration or partnerships. Our stand is not against scientific advancements. Our stand is not against technology or telescopes. Our stand is not against the science of astronomy. I want to make it clear that our stand is against the location. According to the TNT Think World Fund website, TNT is grateful for the use of one of Hawaii's greatest natural resources, the skies over Mauna Kea. In their own words, one of Hawaii's greatest natural resources. Unfortunately, they cannot access Wakea without desecrating Papahanamoku. There is no amount of money that can restore any damages that will occur on our sacred mountain. Proposing to support students K-12 to prepare to enter STEM fields and proposing to create an estimated 130 permanent jobs for a population of over 300,000 does not justify the building of a 30-meter telescope on conservation land. Disregard of existing building laws is not formal on any level. According to an article in the Tribune Herald, astronomers will be able to see 13 billion light years away. It will be the largest and most advanced telescope in the Western Hemisphere. Well, despite our pro stance on collaboration, partnership, scientific advancement, technology, telescopes, and the science of astronomy, we stand united against the building of TMT. The collaborators and partners of TMT chose the wrong location. And we and the world will not stand silent as TMT and their supporters build on our most sacred mountain Our people, our visual representation and reminder of our spiritual and physical connection to Wakea and Papahanaumoku. We will not stand voiceless in this cause, and my great-great-grandchildren, those who exist only in thought, will know how we stood united today to put an end to the desecration of our kupuna, Mauna Kea and Papahanaumoku. A time limit, I would like to end with a few statements. We are not the generation that signed a petition to stop annexation or overthrow the Hawaiian Kingdom. That was the time of Eleanor, Kekoa Kalani right Prendergast, King Kalakaua, and Pilio Kalani Kamakeha, my great-great-grandfather's generation. I'm sorry. We are not the generation that was beaten for practicing our language or our cultural arts. No, where we publicly shame and criticize for being indigenous island people. That was my papa's generation. We are not the generation that endured the bombing of Kaho'olawe and the dumping of unexploded ordinances on Oahu. Nor are we the ones who fought against the building of parks such as Magic Island or the desecration of mass burials in Kaka'ako. We're not the ones there to fight for water rights in Waiahole or Nawaiʻeha. We were not the voices that stood against the building of H3. That was my mother's generation. A generation moved by emotion, the generation that lifted their voices in the 1970s and reaffirmed our identity as Kanaka Maoli. However, we are the generation that bears the kuleana, the responsibility to carry our lahui into the future and protect our aina. We are a generation of educated intellectuals that have been taught to walk and live in both worlds. We are a powerful generation, full of knowledge and understanding because of our predecessors. We are a generation that knows our human rights, our rights as democratic citizens, and our right as Kanaka Maoli. We are a generation that has learned to work with a system that does not support us as indigenous people, or our children, or the generations yet to come. We are a generation of change. We are here to affect change. And that change starts with you, the Board of Regents, the current agents of change. You can open your minds and hearts to hear our voices, to hear the pleas of our kupuna and our future generations. And you can make the choice to stand up, as uncomfortable as it might be, and support the shutdown of PMP.
After that will be Leilani, Daphne, Nelson Riley, and then Mariana, Milner.
Aloha, thank you for the Regents for coming and listening to us. My name is Nicole Kumani Williamson Valley, and I come not to speak for myself, but I come to speak on behalf of an elder kupuna that through he put it in consideration to ask to come to bring connection to you folks. And this pohaku called me on the way over. I was so willing to come and say, take me to all of your hands. And so I'm going to ask you,
feel this for a moment and pass it to each other. This Oahu came with me to say, I come that you might feel the connection. And it's so sacred to everyone that you will feel it. Why our brothers and sisters can't be 430 degrees weather, 24/7, freezing. The Oahu says, feel my beauty and sacredness. So please feel and take that home with you. The sacredness, the beauty that the Mauna is the biggest aloha that the Mauna has. She's had enough abuse, enough exploitation, enough deceit, lies, and greed that passes on not just to her, but all the people who love her. We've had enough abuse. It's enough. 13 times over she's been abused. Enough. So you have this opportunity to think about, where's the rock? That's the message. So that you might feel even just a little bit of connection. Secret. It's not worth it. Down. Such a heaven violation. Go home. Get on your knees and pull it. You ask for the courage to do the right thing because you know in your heart what the right thing is. Yo.
Aloha kakahiaka kako. I am Leilani Pe'ahi Nakona Nelson Riley. I am a proud graduate of the University of Hawaii, which I came to as a Mahini in 1988. I received my master's degree and my doctoral dissertation in Japanese historical linguistics. My family are all scientists, but I come to you and I ask for science with a conscience. If you have not heard the voice of the people, please hear it now. Both the Kanaka Maoli and the Malihini who stand for the sacredness of this Mauna. If you have not heard the voice of the Queen during the invasion, the occupation, and the overthrow, hear her now. If you have not heard the voice of the Queen as she was in prison, crying for her people, saving their lives, hear her now. This place is sacred to so many people. What kind of science is it that destroys the hearts and the minds of so many people? As has been spoken, we are all in favor of science. Look at the Kanaka Maoli are the proud ones of the Kumulipo who knew more about evolution long before Darwin was born. You have the Hokulea in uncharted waters went for thousands of miles and came back. Unbelievable feats of knowledge and wisdom to know the houses of stars. These are the true astronomers. And so no one is against science, but if this science breaks the hearts and minds of so many
I'm going to stop and start the stream real quick just to make sure the archive stays. Everybody hang out. I'll be right back.
I got removed from the land in 2012, and I'm still on the land that they were in between Tena and my house in Kaledola. Mauna Kea. When But I went out there because I was lost. And I could talk to what I will do with my children, because I never know the responsibility of a parent. It was so incredible. And it fell on me. And the only guy that I won't trust is I won't trust him. Without him, I wouldn't be here. When my wife died, I had to learn to be a parent. Today they're all grown up. My daughter will graduate later 27. I mean later 27 in Canada. My other son stays a truck driver. My other one stays in the hospital. He's going to be 21. They missed their Aina. They missed their dad. All the people that will go out there and get arrested for a reason. Because they love the Aina of their birthplace. And we don't can take away that. The things that they're putting up there now, it don't belong up there. And we, as parents, gotta look what's in front of our big fat nose. Because that's our kuliana. It's the people. It's the ohana. I thank you and my family. There's too many people to thank. It's everybody, and I love you, and thank you guys for giving me the time.
David Schlesinger.
Hello, Kako. My name is David Schlesinger. I don't have any Coco. I lived here most of my life. I guess really I'd like to know if you guys came here as with the choice already made in your minds, with personal obligations to this project so deep that you guys will not change your minds, no matter what we say. I look you in the eyes now, and I wonder, because I know how much money and how much influence is behind this project. We've been here for years saying no. A lot of us, their whole life saying no. So, really, like, I wonder about, are the strings on your soul so tight that you can't change your minds at this point?
Yeah.
I wake up every day and I challenge myself and everybody around me to be humble because together we're unstoppable, you guys. They can't stop us. As individuals, we might be powerful, but together, no way they can stop us.
Significant for us, really diluted what that meant to us. That our culture is watered down to be historic, as if we're not here anymore. We're history, we're gone. And the sacredness and the spirituality of our place doesn't exist anymore. My last thing is going to take a few minutes. You promised that there would be no military involvement. And I looked at Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister of Canada, and he had right on his website that part of their interest in having being part of the TMT was to further their defense implementation, and also to have more technology to be able to data mine the globe. And those, for me, raise red flags. So, mahalo nui loa.
Leave me alone. My name is Albert Bahombi. I'm born and raised in North Korea. Some familiar faces out here that back in the 90s, about the 90s, 92s. But besides that, my head, my heart goes out to all that is up there. Another thing too is that my family and I had sent out some registered mails to the state, the county, big landowners like Parker Ranch, Kahua Ranch, all these big developments, to ask them, the first thing is, do they have a clear title? Even the university, we sent out registered mail to them to show us a clear title that they have every right to do what they want to do on this land. None of them succeeded. We gave them 15 days notice, and they still didn't reply up until now. So the next step for my family and I, we're talking right now, and while this is going on, we're going to move someplace else and start something else again. You know, they might not agree with what, people might not agree with me, but I'm destined to do this through ACOA. ACOA is leading me and my family to do it. If I don't do it, who else is going to do it? And the Kekis is the one that's going to suffer the generations. Like everybody that be coming up here and talking about the Kekis. Now, this is the Kekis that is going to bring the light of the future to us. And if we don't do it, and if we neglect in doing it, it falls on our shoulders. My shoulders especially, because I didn't take the stand or didn't take the time or make an effort to do it. I hate to say it, but the constructing that is going on up there with fellow brothers, I work for it. And believe me, if it comes to a point, my people is first. If I stand here right now, saying all of this, I know I'm jeopardizing my job myself.
but I've been with the company for almost 30 years. They treat me well, but it's going to come a time where I'm going to have to make the decision. So by me making this decision, I hope the rest of the brothers of the Hawaiians that working for Goodfellow would see the point that what I think. And it's their decision to make, it's not mine to tell them. But my love to all that is doing what they're doing up there. And for the region here, you know, talking about university, my best education came from my tutu, my grandparents. They was the one that taught me how to live off the land, how to teach my kid to survive off of the land. And I did not go to university. I graduated 12th grade, and that was it. And now I hold a position in Goodfellow as a high technician on heavy equipment. But if I can do it, anybody else can. Right? So the thing is that we all need to put our heads together and stand tall. For that, I love all of you. Aloha. Mahalo.
Chad Ma, who is hard to read, me. No. And then Mary Blanker.
Hello, Mike. My name is Chad Ma. I'm from I was born and raised in Big Island here, and I'm here to testify on behalf of the mountain. And well, I have to hear if he wants to come and say a few words. We are all here to hear the truth. The truth is that our country has been illegally occupied for over 120 years, and the truth is that you folks are letting the university desecrate our mountain, which is most sacred to us. I don't know if you folks know the meaning of sacred, which sacred is like a child. That is what we hold sacred, just like a child. And I think we'll come and hear the truth, speak the truth to the folks, because she came all the way from the wall.
My name is Tiffany Kakalia. I've lived on this island all my life, and I actually reside in Pane'ewa, Hilohanakani. My kupuna descend from North Kohala, Kailua Kono, Pahala Kau, and Pepekeo, Hilopaliku. I grew up on and around this Mauna. She has been the foundation of my existence from generations past, and will continue to be for the lineage ahead of me. This is my granddaughter, my grandmother, whose grandmother comes from Kohala. My mom is sitting in the audience, and so is my daughter. This is part of our family. In working at the Department of Native Hawaiian Health, I've come to understand the practice of aloha aina and its effects on wellness of Native people. The driving force to protect the sanctity of Mauna Kea, the Kanako'iwi, is an ancestral responsibility to care for the land. This cultural practice ensures optimal and holistic health and well-being, as access to sacred places are important social and cultural determinants of wellness for Native people. As a volunteer, I'm the current vice chair of the Kahuku Mauna Council that provides direction to the Office of Mauna Kea Management. Its board and the chancellor of UH Hilo on cultural matters concerning Mauna Kea. The creation of this hui came about when a legislative audit found that UH management practices focuses on developing astronomy facilities at the expense of cultural and natural resources. That's their words in the audit. I've been a member of this council since 2007 and never had to face a situation like this. Hearing the collective voice of a people in opposition of an act that desecrates a significantly sacred place. The voice of a people that is challenging a faulty process. The voices of many that extend beyond this island community. This cannot be ignored. There are people that are on the Mauna today, and they will not leave until this is resolved. There are great concerns to be addressed that may significantly adversely impact the safety of people, including little children, not even a year old. Although there is a mandated moratorium in place, there's a number of issues that are in dire need of mitigation with all stakeholders, most importantly, the Hawaiian community. The complexity of this project requires more dialogue that the university can foster to include a balanced discussion that is yet to take place. Responsible stewardship means just action for all. That is what PONO means. As stated in the executive summary of the CMP, and again, this is right out of the plan, Mauna Kea, more than any other place, presents the stewards of the land with an inexorable duty to conserve, protect, and preserve this unique and most special resource. As Regents of the University of Hawaii, you are accountable to responsible stewardship. This is Wauapua, a region of the gods, its sacred land. Do what is in the best interest of the mountain and for the wellness of the people. The community is here because they know whatever happens to that Mauna is going to affect the existence of Native Hawaiians. The Kahuku Mauna Council is committed to decommissioning facilities and best management practices of for the mountain. Like I mentioned earlier, I was on this council since 2007. There's been very little discussion of decommissioning. Not one facility has come off that mountain till today. Lack of communication continues to keep us from meeting the goal of best management practices. The mere fact that their very own advisory council has yet to be invited to any discussion within the past couple of weeks says something in itself. And again, it proves that pretty much what the community has been telling me all this time. You know, this committee is just something for you to check off your list that you have in place. Culture is clearly not a priority to the office or the management or the university, or these things would have been addressed a long time ago. This, among other things, I find extremely unsettling as part of the office mission. And again, I can read them. Is to achieve harmony, balance, and trust in the sustainable management and stewardship of Mauna Kea, of the Mauna Kea Science Reserve, through community involvement and programs that protect, preserve, and enhance the natural and cultural resources of Mauna Kea. We have yet to see this happen. In the executive summary of their CMP, it states that OMKM's Cultural Advisory Group will take the lead in consulting with Hawaiian organizations and individuals with historic ties to Mauna Kea, cultural practitioners, and the Mauna Kea Management Board in developing procedures and protocols regarding cultural issues. How can we possibly accomplish this first line of business when the very people we need to engage with have tremendous distrust with the University of Hawaii? How can we possibly accomplish this management plans when the very people we need to work with are being arrested and not given the respect they deserve as collaborators in managing this significant cultural resource? I honestly, for being engaged with conversations and being in these meetings with the Office of Mauna Kea Management, you know, in all fairness, they are not equipped with what it takes to manage that, the kuleana that the office has. And they operate on a skeleton crew. You know, the Ranger program is still being built. There's so many things that no way.
Being here today, the Board of Regents, to be able to hear us. My name is Heather Nahakukale. I'm from Hilo. You know, I've been through the UH system, UH Manoa for undergrad, and now I'm here getting my master's in, and I also work as a professional conservationist. And what I want you guys to know is we are science. We are science. This space right here, we are science. So please do not divide us. We are one. And the big difference between the division that is being proposed out there, in my humble opinion, is the questions that we ask ourselves when we engage in science. When I engage in science, I think to myself, and this is because this is what I've been taught to think to myself, is this helping the community? Is this what they asked for? Are we coming in as agencies to help grow something that was founded in the community? Or are we in the way? Are we hurting this process? Because I think that science is just one piece of this whole big puzzle. I think that the science derived from the community is out there to address issues that are occurring right now all across Hawaii. And that the piece that coincides with that is an economic one. This science, this is just one piece of it. You know, is this will this science enable our community to get off the crush of grants and federal hand-me-downs? Will this science allow us to create an economy not based on the desecration and the commodification of culture, but on food security and independence? This is a paradigm that we are changing. We have to change. We're doing it today. We're all doing it in this room.
Oh, yeah.
So for everyone who is still on the fence for this, because I think you guys understand where I stand on it, go to the Mauna. Go to the Mauna. Before we talk and before we say anything, go to the Mauna. And don't go there as a board of regents. Please go there as a person. And look up. And look down. And pule. And find yourself and make your decision as an individual, as those strings of consciousness who we are. And we are all connected. And I mahalo you guys. Go to the Mauna. Go to the Mauna.
Trainer, then my money from home. Here we go. Hello, my kako. Hello, Board of Regents. Hello, for giving us this opportunity to speak to you. My name is Kaulilani Konakapuna Aloha. I'm opposed to the TMT. I have 10 reasons. Number one, the outrigger EIS determined that there is irreparable harm to the cultural and ecological and historical environment. While the most recent EIS states that the TMT will not have a significant effect on the same things, yet it continues to use information from the outrigger EIS as evidence on why the TMT project is a better plan. I'm wondering why that is occurring. By TMT's own admission, options 2 and 3 for roadway access will have the most negative impact on the VQ population. And even though there has been previous concern and testimony against these options, TMT will still use these options, affecting 0.23 acres of VQ habitat. Also, the EIS states that monitoring of the VQ populations will occur prior, during, and for 2 years after the TMT is built. I have been up to the Mauna. There are people that have been up to the Mauna. I have seen no monitoring happening prior at all. Number 2, I am concerned about the decrease in the population of the VQ over the last decade due to increasing disturbances, due to increased usage of the summit. The EIS states that there will be an increase of 30% of visitor traffic in the area. In 2011, 30,000 people come to the summit every year. I think that there is more today. While there are proposed methods to mitigate this, like washing vehicles at staging areas, carpooling, increasing ranger presence to educate the public, I have personally seen the lack of proper management on the summit. There is a need to decrease the amount of dust that is produced by traffic.
I would like to know how the dust affects the ecology of our native plants and insects. The EIS states that the TMT will work with UH to create a restoration plan, but there is no plan on how this will occur when decommission occurs. I am very concerned that if there is no plan on how to restore and implement the habitat now, how can we be sure that it will happen in the future? We talk about things that we're going to do in the future, and we know it doesn't happen. Number 3, administration rule says the object of conservation district subzone is to develop with proper management. Previous investigations on the management practices have shown that this is not occurring. The 2000 master plan, the 1983 master plan, none of them were approved by the BLNR, and yet we continue to use that information to decide that this is the development should go on. I oppose this. Mauna Kea is being exploited more than ever before at the expense of our cultural, historical, and ecological communities. Tour operators, Hawaiian Ice Tours, everybody. I watched those tour operators up there talking about our people in a denigrating way. They are perpetuating racism and prejudice and just hell against our people. Professor Donald Thomas, number 5 of UH Manoa, is leading the Humu'ula Saddle Hydrologic Study Project. They discovered that the water table is actually at 4,500 feet, not 500, 4,500. And that is in the saddle area. And in the testimony that was given against the TMT, they said that there are springs coming out of Puhakuloa. So if you go up higher, they're going to find water table up there. And I think that this is the reason why we are not gaining access to this information. Number 6. Ben Disco's testimony of the draft EIS stated that the peak draw of TMT is 2.4 megawatts. This exceeds the estimated peak of every other existing observatory up there combined. The typical draw will be 350 kilowatts. Now, HELCO says that they can handle that draw. But you and I all know that HELCO has been raising our rates. I want to know, is TMT a part of this? And how are they going to get all of that pipe up there? Where are they going to go through? Kukau'ula? All of that area where the Vekio are? TNT asserts 140 jobs. But I read other countries that are invested in this project, they are also creating pipelines so that their people can come here and take those jobs. In the EIS, TMT said, to the greatest extent feasible, employment opportunities will be filled locally. This will include advertising available positions locally first. However, to fill some positions which typically require a worldwide search, advertisements will be simultaneously released both locally and to a wider audience. What does that mean to you? How many local people are going to be able to get these jobs? The Think Fund. In the EIS itself, they said the Think Fund is not, it's premature. They haven't even developed how this money is going to be spent. But they said it will be subject to 25% endowment, 75% going towards scholarships, programming, education, community outreach. Only $2 million a year. If you look at all of the different foundations in the state of Hawaii that are already doing these things, one alone, $69 million a year. What is $2 million a year?
Nothing.
And it's only going to go towards Think, STEM. What about all of our other keiki? The TMT comments on the draft EIS says, however, should the military wish to fund an individual's, groups, or agencies, including a federal agency's use of the TMT observatory once it has been built, there would be no restriction on the military doing so. However, there will be no classified research performed during the on the TMT. This is on page 213. Pohakaloa is right there. They are paying for the hydrologic study that is happening by by our university. They are paying it because they're tired of the $1.5 million that they're spending on hauling water. What is that water going to be used for? To help them expand their training area on our land so that they can put more uranium in our soil, so that the water table, 4,500 feet, can get that, and that can come to all of us, all of you, all your babies. I know that there are proponents here, and they support and they put their trust in the UH master plan. They put it in their trust in TMT investors and the good fellow to uphold the best construction practices to meet the requirements of the conservation district. And I know the conservation district, it allows for this type of development within proper management practices. But I assert that the proponents' trust placed in these organizations is misplaced. The history of management on the Mauna is characterized by a disregard of the historical, ecological, cultural, and legal requirements of the conservation district, and this is neglect. Our university, my alma mater, is exploiting our most sacred landmark in all of the Pacific. Number 10, the EIS states, resolving claims that the ceded lands wrongfully taken by the U.S., that the state's title to ceded lands is clouded or void, or that the ceded lands should be returned or compensation provided to a class defined by race or ancestry, is beyond the scope of this EIS. The EIS assumes that the state of Hawaii lawfully owns those portions of Mauna Kea where physical improvements for the TMT project are anticipated. I am wearing the hayawahi. It covers my na'au. It covers my people. Our kingdom still exists. A recent court case accepted and acknowledged the evidence of the existence of our kingdom. My ohana from Hawaii brought that about. My ohana brought that about. We all know what happens when we assume things. Thank you for listening to my testimony. Kukiai Mauna! Kukiai Mauna!
Is this your bag? Well, if you move it, I could sit down and everybody behind me could see. Thank you.
Excuse me, what page you on?
Is how long I'm here. After how long it is.
Put your phone here and I'll walk by you.
The
always wake up unexpected. I just found out about this gathering this morning at 8:00. I was pretty disappointed to not know what was going on. And thankfully, I was able to send me this information that I am here today. Sometimes I think that it's a win-win situation. If you folks think about it, it's very simple for all of us to know that the place is not appropriate. The place is not appropriate. And that there is a win-win situation. We can all win. We can all win out of all of this. But you are the educators. You've come here. I'm a graduate from this university. And I want to see my grandson graduate from this. But please, in your minds, in your heart, there's got to be a way that all of us can benefit from all of this. I think about things like having our own river flowing from the Mauna all the way down. I drank water from the river when I was young. I can't even do that now. I go and buy water. But you know, to think as we think it, the water, the land, the sky, it's important to us. And I know all of you know this, and as educators, it's a win-win situation if you think about it. Move it. Relocate it. But do something to keep us all happy here. I'm not sure if all of you live here. It sounds like you all don't, but you're going to go home. We live here. I'd like to see one day water flowing all the way down to where I live, all the rivers on Hawaii Island, where our children can play in it. Our children can drink the water, our island can flourish. That's what I want. But it's a win-win. Please think about it. Relocate it. Find somebody else or some other company. I'm not sure who it is, but it can be done.
No. Stop doing that. Seriously, stop doing that.
I'm not for the TNT. I'm really here for my grandchildren, and I have great-grandchildren, and I want them to be a part of the process. We are all one. We are all connected. Somehow we are all connected. That's why we're all here. So please, you must be connected to us somehow. You have answers. You are the educators. So mahalo.
I'm in 8th grade of Mauna Kea. I'm here to represent my school and my family.
It's okay, baby.
If you're building the other telescope, why don't you guys pick up the other ones?
It's okay, baby.
I'm here to protect Mauna Kea because she's my mother.
out to all the people who went to Mauna Kea. Thank you for our support and for y'all. I'm gonna be going to Hawaii and seeing the solo that Hawaii News wrote to talk about the CBT. I'm hearing the songs so I can protect Mauna Kea. I know by teaching them, I thank them for teaching me on things that Mauna Kea is to us. And I know you guys are here to protect Mauna Kea, and thank you guys for doing it. I'm just sad if you guys built the CBT, what would happen if you built all of it, and why is 9 of them not fixed? And I like to sign getting because of course Mauna Kea is our Kea, and I stand up for Hawaiian people and the Mauna. Mahalo.
The topic for today's discussion is the management of Mauna Kea and the Mauna Kea Science Reserve. In 1998, there was an audit or an official inspection that was done specifically for that, the management of Mauna Kea and the Mauna Kea Science Reserve. The audit stated that the University of Hawaii's management is inadequate to ensure protection of natural resources. The university focuses primarily on the development of Mauna Kea for their benefits gained to its research program. The university neglected historic preservation, and the cultural value of Mauna Kea was largely, multiple times, unrecognized. In 2014, which was last year, a follow-up was done from this audit and found that UH still had not done what was recommended from the previous audits. UH had not adopted rules to establish authority for its management responsibilities for Mauna Kea. Thus again, years later, hampering its ability to fulfill its responsibilities to protect this mountain's resources. I am saddened that the mountain's resources are not of utmost importance to the University of Hawaii, but rather the benefits gained from UH's research, which seems to me have taken priority. The lease states that the university shall not damage, remove, excavate, disfigure, deface, or destroy any object of antiquity, prehistoric ruin, or monument of historic value. Now 13 telescopes and 1 antenna later have been built. An estimated $600 million have been sent out to construct those facilities. Building of TMT will go against the lease, therefore causing damage, excavating, disfiguring, defacing, and destroying antiquity and monument of historic value. Building of TMT will prove the audit to be true, that the University of Hawaii's management of Mauna Kea is inadequate to ensure the protection of natural resources and cultural value. Building of TMT does not only go against the lease, it goes against University of Hawaii's mission statement, which includes that the responsibility is to improve the quality of life for its people, the people of Hawaii. Building of TMT does not improve the quality of life for the people of Hawaii. It does not only not acknowledge Hawaiian culture or the Native Hawaiians' community concern. It lacks environmental concern, legal obligations, and cultural respect. Building of TMT also goes against the Office of Mauna Kea's management, whose mission includes protecting and preserving and enhancing the natural cultural resources of Mauna Kea. In my opinion, there is nothing natural nor cultural about an 18-story telescope. It is my understanding that the University of Hawaii Board of Regents has rulemaking and final approval authority over major projects. As a Native Hawaiian and an alumni of the University of Hawaii, I humbly ask you to take a stand with us and to do what is right. Change the way that people see the University of Hawaii, which is right now not so maikai. Be proactive in maintaining this conservation district. Put a stop to this lack of transparency, put a stop to this lack of accountability, and put a stop to this lack of equity that goes along with this institution.
Before viernes. After Keiko es Kahanu Manolo and Malani Alameda.
Well, Uranus and my students as well, but I'm pretty sure they're fucking around on the phone right now. Ovao Malani Alameda, Mohilo Hanakahi Waiao, and I am here in support of the protection of our mountain, Mauna Kea. I bring my students here in order to see the people who they will be writing letters to in order to be administered to a higher place of learning, so that their learning may not stop where I teach them. I stand here because of the kupuna who asked me to take care of their mountain, because her great-grandma, her great-grandma, and her grandma are all spread their ashes on that mountain. You understand that, yeah? You guys understand that? Her mom does not want to be spread there anymore, which is in a lineage, which is a breaking of a lineage that has been passed on for many years. Construction of the TMT will not just destroy our culture and our lineage, it'll destroy what makes us who we are, where we come from, our navel, our nahal, and our po'o. With all the balance of all of these three things, we find out who we are through experience and practice. I am a teacher, not a professor. I teach children. I don't profess a career. I want everybody here to understand that I'm not here for myself, Because if you know me, I selflessly give myself services up to the community of Hilo every day, all day. Illinois Brown will be speaking for co-awareness when I'm done. So again, aloha and much mahalo for you guys to be sitting here with all of this weight on your shoulders.
I love science, but we need our Mauna because that's our kupuna. And without our kupuna, it wouldn't be us. I respect science and respect our kupuna. But most of all, we need our kupuna more than science. Not trying to push you guys' opinions here. We need our mountain. Pretty sure I love my water too. Yeah, mahalo.
I can't read the first name, but the last name is Kahobi.
But I take the most pride in my teaching of all the aspects of being a professor. However, I live here with my ohana on the slopes of Mauna Kea. I'm a bit disgusted at the arrogance of the TMT group and the university in their response to the massive opposition to the TMT being built on Mauna Kea. The two main responses that I've heard are, we've been through the 7-year process, and the people have a right to be heard. Often, we talk about our engagement in Hawaiian spirituality in those terms, Hawaiian spirituality, rather than Hawaiian religion, because our practices don't match that of 200 years ago. However, all religions evolve, all religious practices evolve. So I'm proud to say that my ohana is a practitioner of Hawaiian religion. What I see here is a clash of religions. The Judeo-Christians' inability to understand and respect Hawaiian religion. My family, again, are practitioners of Hawaiian religion. The summit of Mauna Kea is an extremely sacred place to us for reasons that have been eloquently explained to you on numerous occasions. It has become evident that the Judeo-Christian community cannot comprehend this concept of sacred place. Given this, it begs the question, throughout the approval process, how many practitioners of Hawaiian religion were involved as decision makers for the TMT to be built on Mauna Kea? I'm assuming none. So the process from the beginning has been seriously stacked in favor of TMT. Stop claiming it is a fair process. I would like to suggest we redo the process of approval and have only practitioners of Hawaiian religion in every single power position to decide on whether the TMT should be built on a sacred summit of Mauna Kea. Now that would be a fair process. Or does that sound unfair? That's exactly what this process has been, only stacked in favor of the TMT. What gall the TMT and UH people have to ask us to compromise. We are extremely tired of compromising. Especially on your terms of compromise. For telescope number 1, we compromise, which means you put the telescope on a mountain. Telescope number 2, we compromise, which means you put the telescope on the mountain. Telescope number 3, we compromise, which means you put the telescope on the mountain. Telescope number 4, we compromise, which means you put the telescope on the mountain. Telescope number 5, we compromise, you put the telescope on the mountain. Number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, we compromise and you put the telescope on the mountain. Those are your terms of compromise. We are exhausted. We are not compromising anymore. So here's why I suggest a compromise on my terms. You absolutely cannot build your telescope spoke on our sacred summit, but please feel free to contribute money to our community organization. It sounds pretty bad when the shoe's on the other foot. Lastly, stop having UH spokesperson Dan Eisenzoll, hello Dan, say to the media, the people have a right to be heard. I know that's not you, Dan, that's what they're telling you to say. But that's so patronizing. You're willing to sit here and listen, and perhaps it was just your predecessors, but willing to sit here and listen, but you do not hear us. You never have heard us, no matter how many people explain. Sometimes I doubt that you can even have the ability to truly hear us. Not just with your ears, but with your knowledge. I have a picture here. This is my youngest daughter. On Monday, she turns 4. Her name is Mauna Kea. She is a child of Wakea. She's dedicated to that mountain. This mountain is sacred to her as it is to us. I'm almost done, sorry. She refers to it as my mountain. Last week, after I returned from visiting our warriors up there on Mauna Kea, she asked me, Daddy, did you fight the bad guys on my mountain? And it touched my heart that she said that, although I don't tell her it's bad guys, they're just doing bad things. She is a Mauna Kea warrior in training. I ask you guys who make decisions here, don't be a bad guy on her mountain. Prove me wrong. Show us that you don't just sit here and listen. Show us that you can truly hear in your knowledge. What the multitudes of people have been saying, and I'll say it slowly, science and money do not supersede the sanctity of our mountain.
Joy Mills, Karen. Following Joy is Bradwood Farron, Yaloha, Yada, and Jason Momoa.
To my kumu that taught me that. It's in my heart because at 30, that was the first Oli I learned on Oahu. And I see you there. I come here as a sovereign Hawaiian, native, Koko, both sides of my ohana. Both grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-grandparents, they signed the treaty against annexation. My parents, my grandparents spoke fluent Hawaiian, but they couldn't teach my parents because that was the way of the land then. So I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and my sign says Aole UH. I'm a product of UH. It says Aole Oha. My mother was a secretary in the 70s and the 80s of OHA. At the time when the surge for Hawaiian and who we are, and to be allowed to speak Hawaiian on our own lands, my grandfather, he looks at me now. Pa is our Hawaiian name they gave us because they couldn't say the whole thing. They couldn't say the whole thing. But he was the caretaker of the courts. And he saw his brothers and sisters getting arrested for Hawaii. And he witnessed and he worked hard to make sure that his children spoke good English. We speak very good English. And now I'm so proud to see and hear these children speaking Hawaiian around me. I love it. I speak very little, and that's why I call them mine. Again, I'm still learning. But I love to learn, I love to hear it. And I oppose the desecration and the continued desecration on our Hawaiian lands. I don't believe that UH nor OHA has rights on my Hawaiian lands, on our Hawaiian lands. As a Koko, we live. We are not dead. I see these mean posts, and I say, but we ignore it because we know we're alive. Right here, we're alive. We say it wrong, we say it right, whatever. Anything we say, as my father would tell me, you either say something or you stand for nothing. And I was brought here, Tutu Pele. I believe brought me here because there's many issues we need to speak about. But this one right now, we're all going to say, because now I know. Now I know, and you need to know, and you've been told that this is not right. And we know, and our keikis know, and we're rising. We've made many, many times.
Hello, my couple. This is just beautiful. I love it. All right? You guys standing up for what's right, and that's all that matters. All right? I understand that the approval process is predicated on the investors making money. And in any investment, what happens is there's a serious risk of losing that money. And it's understood. So what I think the university is trying to do is to guarantee a return on investment. Okay, so I think everybody, what you're doing now is cool. I guess, like Barack Obama, I'm a Hawaiian national. Just the management of the place, I do not agree with. You guys were given a jewel, and now it's just destroyed. It doesn't sit right with anybody here. It doesn't. I mean, and for you to actually try and guarantee these countries and these foundations to make a return on that money at the expense of everybody else here, it's just wrong. It's wrong. You've got to do the right thing. Like if I was the president of a company and we had a mission statement, the mission statement would be, do the right thing and don't be a dick. You don't do the right thing, right? You know, just like President Clinton said, we illegally took over your islands. We sorry. Well, you go back to your investors and you tell them, look, we overstepped our responsibility. We overstepped our bounds. We sorry.
Aloha. Aloha. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm not Jason Momoa. But he asked me to read his statement. He couldn't be here, and he's very sorry. And so, if you don't mind, I'll read his statement and then I'll give my testimony. Yeah, sure. To the Board of Regents of the University of Hawaii and the Board of Trustees of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, although I don't see them here. Thank you for calling this meeting together. As of this writing, over 45,000 people have signed a petition urging Governor Ige to stop the construction of the 30-meter telescope. I stand with these people and respectfully urge you to permanently shut down the construction of the TMT on Mauna Kea. I ask that you support the efforts to void the Conservation District Use Permit and the sublease issued by the Board of Land and Natural Resources for the TMT and any related permits allowing construction to proceed. State law, HAR 13530, clearly outlines the criteria that must be met before construction is allowed on conservation lands in Hawaii, including, but not limited to, the development may not cause substantial adverse impact to existing natural resources within the surrounding area, community, or region. The existing physical environmental aspects of the land, such as the natural beauty and open space characteristics, will be preserved upon or improved upon, whichever is applicable. As a primary guardian of public lands, BLNR has an affirmative duty to protect the conservation and conserve these lands for the betterment of the present and future generations, stated in the Constitution of the State of Hawaii, Article 11, Section 1. The TMT will stand at 18 stories high, 6 stories higher than the tallest building on Big Island, the Bay Shore Towers. Slightly over 6 football fields in size, the TMT will be the largest development ever constructed on Big Island. TMT clearly illustrates BLNR's mismanagement of Mauna Kea. The University of Hawaii, TMT, and BLNR all admit the TMT project will cause adverse, significant, and substantial impact to the cultural and natural resources of Mauna Kea. The TMT will produce 150 to 250 cubic feet of solid waste per week, but more troubling are the still unknowns. In addition to the TMT, TMT is not the only problem. Many other of the other telescopes use substandard sewage and hazardous waste handling. Yet there's been no comprehensive hydrology studies done for the whole of Mauna Kea Conservation District. This is troubling and may have a direct impact on Mauna Kea's aquifer, which is a primary resource for the Big Island. TMT claims that it will be the most powerful ground-based telescope in the world. This is a false statement. Already under construction in the high desert of Chile is the European Extremely Large Telescope. This telescope will be complete nearly the same time as the TMT and will be more powerful. In comparison to the TMT, the EELT's lens diameter is 90 meters larger. It is of utmost importance that we preserve, educate, and nourish Hawaiian ancestry. History is the very seed that allows us to grow into a better and more knowledgeable society. This is the sole purpose specifically detailed in the Hawaiian Constitution for BLNR and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Laws both on the federal level and state level have been enacted to preserve our heritage so that our children would know where they are from, which is pivotal to determining which way they may go forth. The National Historic Preservation Act as 1966 as amended states, any project funded with federal money or those projects that affect historic districts such as Mauna Kea's historic district must be reviewed to determine whether or not the project may produce adverse effects on any cultural resources eligible or listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Mauna Kea is ceded lands protected by the federal law, which states the same legal parameters that the Constitution of Hawaii does and is the responsibility of BLNR to uphold. This letter is on behalf of thousands across the world like myself who are unable to be there in person. This is more than just a Hawaiian issue, it is a global issue. For me, Hawaii is deeply infused with the spirit of the people. Their aloha is felt all over the world and is the force in which attracts many to travel there. We respectfully urge you to permanently stop the development of the TMT, to uphold the mandates of the Constitution, to protect and perpetuate beneficiaries and the traditional, customary Native Hawaiian rights. The pursuit of science must not be at the price of Mother Nature. We are all committed to the very end to ensure that Mauna Kea's beauty, natural resources, and native habitats are preserved for generations to come, because we are Mauna Kea. going to give my own testimony now. I wanted to help provide some context. Because I see many of you are not the same people that were here in 2000. In 2000, the university approved what is known as the Master Plan 2000. And I was here. At that time, I was actually working on Mauna Kea also. But I was here to urge you not to approve that master plan because I'm a witness to the destruction. I was also here to ask the university why there are people who have destroyed my family. Oh. In 2000, we listened to one of the most revered Hawaiian leaders, Nainoa Thompson, give a heartfelt explanation of why he could not support the plan. And I just wanted to say, I want to say it because our Ohana is silly. It was one of the most degrading moments of my life as a Hawaiian to watch how the trustees treated him. He finished this statement. He sat down and the chair said, "Thank you for sharing, Nainoa. I call for the vote." That was it. Now he leads one of the world's greatest things. He sails and leads all of our Ohana to demonstrate the knowledge that the navigators possess from Mauna Kea. He does that at great sacrifice. All of the Ohana do that at great sacrifice to their own family to help spread aloha around the world. Excuse me for my emotion, but it hasn't really gone away. All of our sites, my site has been desecrated 7 times since that period. Our lele on the summit is destroyed every time we do ceremony there. It is happening today as we speak. It is not there. So, to give you context, we submitted this report titled Mauna Kea, the Temple, Protecting the Sacred Resource. My organization, Mauna Kea Nainoho, was tasked to help compile this by the Royal Order of Kamehameha. And in this report, you will see all of the things that are happening today we told you here needed to be fixed. You're still only paying $1. The hydrology is still under question and under threat by not just TNT, all of the telescopes. We subpoenaed the records and got 50,000 individual pieces of paper describing hazardous materials that are used on Mauna Kea. When we sued the Keck and NASA to do the EIS, we discovered that there's 50,000 gallons of human waste from that facility alone going in the ground. So, to give you context, none of these things were adhered to. We made 120 copies and we gave them to all of the people, OHA, politicians, to all of the regents, to the president. We carried them, hand carried them, all of these places. And I just want to give you context because what the young people are doing today, it shouldn't be a surprise because you have been on notice for many, many years. But I want to say to the people, I don't want to talk to all you guys anymore. I want to say to the people, I am overwhelmed. You so inspire me. We've been doing it a long time. And you will do it. I know it. And I want to acknowledge all of them. Yeah, Mauna. And Mauna Kea, they have held down this aloha kapu aloha. But now, we need everyone to take their place to hold this because this is not just about Hawaii. It's about the world and our place in it and our kuleana to the world and to the heavens. And the only way thing to keep us all together is make sure that we keep first the Mauna in the center of our argument wherever we go, and also Akua in the center. It's not about us. It's about Akua and the Mauna. Mahalo.
Thank you. As I said at the beginning, we need to finish at 3, and it is now 3. And appreciating that there are more people signed up to speak than have already spoken. So again, as I said at the beginning, I will work with Chancellor and the President to determine how we follow up. This is the beginning of a conversation, and we're not at the end of it. There are 2 ways to communicate with us. I'm going to write it up here. You can send our email address for testimony is yes.
Before people start to leave, yeah?
Yes.
We would like some assurances that everyone's voice will be heard here, and it will not just become another piece of paper under the masses. So before anybody leaves, can you guys have a little powwow or something to tell us exactly how this kind of forum will continue?
I don't know that I can commit to that.
Chancellor is right there. Chancellor? Chancellor is right here.
The problem, is coordinating schedules so that we can be here. The problem is coordinating our schedules so that we can be here. Chancellor has said we'll put it on the campus webpage. I'm sorry. Put the next. We need to.
What else do you have to do today?
No.
Because I think that more people can be heard today.
Well, no, I said at the beginning, there are people that need to go to the mainland tonight. We said this up. So, there will be a follow-up meeting. As the Chancellor said, we'll post it on the campus website when we have that time and date. I'm sorry? I think I don't think we got through 15% of the total. 61. Out of how many? $120. So actually we're further through it than I thought we were going to.
There's the press that stayed till the end. Almost nobody.
I have a question. A lady who came from Kuwait, Wilma Ole, and we give her, please stick with the 3 minutes, and then we really need to run to catch planes. Thank you. You have given us much to think about. That's they're taking the microphone up to her.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Roma Hialani. I reside in Pepe. Excuse me, but it's very electrifying afternoon. Listening to the appeal and their testimony, but also see the old warriors from Battlefield Report called Love It. On go home. We paid for our EV Kupuna. And we completed the last one Christmas time. So, I was telling my sister, you know, I get a little too old for this. And it's better enough I gotta reach my nap time. Anyhow, but thank you for those who got for me today. But I'm here to stand in solidarity with the protectors of Mauna Kea. I am a council practitioner. I'm a council practitioner too. Currently, my kuleana is with the Salt Pans. Like Salt Pan in the Makai portion in the Apua of Kuula, more commonly known as Hanpepe. My maternal grandfather being Alaska Hiki, and me being the eldest grandchild. So it's not too far distant. My paternal tutu Kani of Hokina founded Huiaoka Aina. That's all tutu men. So we get history. You know, we're deeply rooted in our love for our nation. And Mara Tutu man said Onipaha. Okay? He's my Tutu man. And I think those of you who know who coined the term Onipaha, besides the Queen, you know who my Tutu man is. And that's why I'm here. On my paternal side of the family, another Tutukani practiced his religion in the uplands of Waiwa, where Schofield Barracks is situated. These practitioners were called Loali. They communed with the gods in the uplands. When the couple system was abolished, they were sent into exile by Kaumanu, his own sister. They relocated to Kauai, bringing with them place names, Nihoe and Kalena. This connects me to Mauna Kea. Even if I haven't been on the mountain itself, But my tutus practiced what other cultural practitioners do on Mauna Kea. So I understand that. And I understand the importance of it. And how we gotta carry the kuleana. I can find a story to tell, but you know, I missed my flight already, so. I have a feral cat colony that I take care of down in South Farm. Yeah, and Heva, because get Oi Kanaka, that's my oi, my feral cats. And I can tell you another story about feral cats. No, I mean, you know, kidding aside. Yeah, because a friend of mine during college time told me that when they were camping down South Farm, this is about 40-something years ago, had cats. So the father got annoyed with all the cats making noise at night. So he bagged them up, whatever he could find, went up the road, half a mile, and he threw them to the ocean. When he came back to camp, they were back at camp. Okay? I will tell you this too, which I never put down in my testimony. The place at Kuleana, the South Bends, and then people are not here, but she was my cultural expert witness. When I went through an intervention case, because the state DOT wanted to improve the airfield down there, and they wanted to bypass the EIS. Okay? But that's a special place too. That's the place of the gods. And that's why for me, I belong to that place. Every day I go down there. Every day. In the morning I go. In the evening, when I go feed my cats, I go. We get that kuleana. To the cow, we malama waialeale. And we make sure nobody will maha what's up there. Because we know what the consequence will be. Yeah? I profess I don't know Mauna Kea, but you guys do. Okay? And those of you who know the importance of it towards our race and the continuation of our race, you continue your practice. It's important. It's important for us to continue. Okay? And I could go into another story on that too. But anyhow, but I know one day when I do get the kahea to go up, I go. But right now I get plenty other kuleanas to take care. And that keeps me busy. And for those of you, Regents, you got my 3-page handout. And if you look at the 3rd page, I've included a map of the Big Island. And it clearly delineates what's farmland and what's government lands. Okay? The lands of Mauna Kea are both Crown and government. Continued work on the Mauna doesn't give vested interest. See, Kauai coined that term because we have a hotel development called Tukori'i. This was in the 70s. And the developers thought that before we go through the court system and everything, you know, pound talk, we would bring in the bulldozer, we were building the equipment, and we would begin construction so that people can say, we have vested our interests. Don't do it. Okay, we've been there, done that. It's been tested. I'm giving everyone, regents, scientists, investors, representatives of other nations, notice that these lands remain secure with the Kingdom of Hawaii. And the Crown lands are that of the heirs of Lord Kapuaiwa, Kamehameha V. And you may refer to the second page for my genealogy. Thank you.
Okay then, there you have it, folks. 3:16 sharp.